Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Today's video will be a short discussion of the real estate transaction announced last week on Thursday, September 22nd, 2022 of the purchase of 35 and a half acres in Rancho Palos Verdes, San Pedro, two cities in the South Bay area of Los Angeles County near Long Beach, Port of Los Angeles. Anyway, this is a purchase between University of California Regents and specifically UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, but it was approved by the Regents of the University of California systems. They have, I believe, 9 university campuses. This will expand UCLA beyond Westwood, and it's 30 miles south from Westwood, past the Ann Heche fiery car crash scene. Anyway, it's $80 million transaction to purchase 35 and a half acres in 2 different locations. One in Rancho Palos Verdes, which is a classrooms and student housing, and then a second location right near Fort MacArthur in San Pedro, right near Terminal Island Prison. That's 11 acres. And that's 25 and a half acres over in Rancho Palos Verdes, which is approximately 8 miles to the west. It's in the same general area, and this is where Sharon Tate's father lived. He lived about 8 miles from where the Rancho Palos Verdes transaction is happening, also in Rancho Palos Verdes, which is a part of San Pedro. Anyway, it's $80 million for 35 and a half acres, so that works out to $2,200,000 per acre for all you real estate experts out there. Some of the land is open space, and some of it is actually improvements with the classrooms, the buildings, and the dormitories. Okay, so let me read you from an article from my favorite CIA distribution site, which is called CBS News, CBS Fake News, I think we call it. So let's see here. Their headline, which actually is reported this week on last week's business: UCLA purchases campus housing of now closed Marymount University for $80 million. This is a purchase between UC Regents and Loyola Marymount University, Jesuit Roman Catholic, named after, of course, Saint Ignatius de Loyola, who was the father of the Jesuits, aka the Society of Jesus. If you want to be a member of the Jesuits, you take 4 oaths: chastity, poverty, right? Obedience, and then world mission, which, in case you don't know, that means New World Order Agenda 21. That's what world mission is today. It's Agenda 21. Depopulation is one of the themes, one of the many themes, pacification and control being the overreaching theme. But anyway, that's the Jesuits, and that's not really any different than University of California Regents, because they're infiltrated by the same people who've infiltrated the Catholic Church. So it's just one hand transferring the baton to the other hand. All right, let me continue with the article. UCLA has apparently burst into the seams, so they're creating a satellite campus in the South Bay. South Bay meaning Port of Los Angeles, Port of Long Beach, Terminal Island Prison, where, as you know, there's medical experiments performed on the prisoners over there. Former prisoners in that facility, that federal prison facility, which is a small facility, have been named luminary names like Timothy Leary, who really was probably the doctor conducting the experiments, but they booked him in as a prisoner who was smuggling marijuana back from Mexico. It sounds like a cover story for a long-term CIA soldier, Timothy Leary. And he spent time in Terminal Island, as did Charlie Manson, and Charlie Manson's cellmate Phil Kaufman, who became the Rolling Stones road manager and also the babysitter of the made-for-television CBS Manson family, consisting of some teenage girls that lived in 3 homes with 2 swimming pools at 13158 Chandler Boulevard, a couple of miles from the CBS television studios. Home to Art Linkletter, home to Sharon Tate, home to Jay Sebring / Tom Coomer, the Batman series, and the Beverly Hillbillies with Buddy Ebsen, and the Munsters featuring Al Lewis, who used to drop his children off at the address I just gave you, 13158 Chandler. Grandpa Munster used to drop his children off there so Susan Atkins could babysit them, with Patricia Krenwinkel and Charlie Manson assisting from time to time. So what do you know about that, right? The menacing Manson family made for television. The university announced they've acquired 2 properties belonging to the now closed Marymount University in Rancho Palos Verdes and in the city of San Pedro, which is right next door. The $80 million land acquisition is the largest in UCLA history, according to university officials. With the expansion, UCLA will be able to enroll an additional 1,000 students. Yeah, if they can find 1,000 students that want to get vaccinated and go into a mandated surveillance campus. As, quote, as new demand for our academic offerings continues to grow, this acquisition will allow us to expand student access in line with the University of California's 2030 goals to strengthen our connections to the greater Los Angeles region and deepen our institution's research and public service impact, says UCLA Chancellor Gene Block in a statement. I think Gene Block is a blockhead, and he's reading, it's a poorly written, ambiguous quote as to what their mission are. I think we know the mission of University of California is to indoctrinate the children into the Jesuits' obedience program. And chastity isn't going to be an issue if they're all infertile. If all the women are infertile and all the men are infertile, then the chastity doesn't really matter, and they can go to a transhuman concept, which is another Agenda 21 anti-population device. If everybody's transhuman and infertile, then you don't have a world overpopulation problem, do you? This acquisition includes Marymount's 24.5-acre main campus in Rancho Palos Verdes, which is 30 miles south of the Westwood campus of UCLA, and it also includes an 11-acre residential site located in San Pedro. That's where Paul Tate, Sharon Tate's father, used to work, is San Pedro. That's where Leno LaBianca trained to become a military policeman in the United States Army, in San Pedro, where Paul Tate became military United States Army intelligence officer and a colonel. This purchase was approved by the University of California Regents on Thursday, September 22nd. Marymount shuttered this campus earlier this year due to rising costs and declining enrollments. There was apparently intense interest in the property from residential developers. Well, of course, right? Because even Donald Trump has a golf course in Palos Verdes Estate, which is just a few miles from this campus. And it's interesting that Loyola Marymount is indicating that they have declining enrollments to a Jesuit Roman Catholic indoctrination center, which, by the way, is located next door to the TMZ Harvey Levin fake news studios. It's the same zip code. Quote, we chose UCLA because it has a long track record of educational excellence and is perfectly suited to build upon the mission of teaching and community service we established here, says Brian Marcotte, the president of Marymount University, said in a statement. Let me translate what he meant. What he meant was they can handle the indoctrination from here. Our enrollment's declining, so we're going to get out of the indoctrination business in Palos Verdes and pass the baton. But as far as the mission of teaching, what's that got to do with Loyola University or the University of San Francisco, which is basically a mirror image of Loyola Marymount in Haight-Ashbury? right? Were they doing a lot of teaching when they were assisting Abigail Folger's mother to work with Timothy Leary and distribute LSD and the amphetamines research project in San Francisco? I mean, Ines Mejia, Abigail Folger's mother, attended St. Ignatius Parish. That was where her funeral was held on her 100th birthday. That was where that's where the Lone Mountain School for Women is. That's where St. Ignatius High School is to indoctrinate high school age kids. And then over by the 5 blocks away at the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic is where St. Agnes Elementary School is for K through 9th grade or 8th grade, K through 8. Jesuit Elementary School located 2 blocks from the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic, where they give out birth control and free drugs as necessary. Anyway, that's the latest information today. I just want to make sure that you understand that this area where UCLA is going to be taking over from Loyola Marymount is a CIA high concentration area, and that it always has been for over 100 years. This is, sure, it's south of Culver City, where Dorothy Stratton was murdered, where Sharon Tate signed her 7-year contract with MGM Studios through Filmways. It's where Sharon Tate was buried in Holy Cross Catholic cemeteries in Culver City. This is about 19 miles south of that, Marina Del Rey, where Dennis Wilson was mysteriously drowned, and where Natalie Wood was taken to Santa Catalina Island, which is in close proximity to this location. It's offshore, about 20 miles offshore, and where she was mysteriously drowned when she can't swim at 3 o'clock in the morning. And this is where Paul Tate was given, I think, a free home in Rancho Palos Verdes. And a free home, there I say that because Linda Staman moved into the home, and that address for that home I'm referring to, where Sharon Tate never lived, but her sisters and mother Doris did, 6240 Monero Drive, Rancho Palos Verdes, California, zip code 90275. So I'm trying to be as specific as possible. I believe that's a clandestine service home, just like Cielo Drive is, just like the property where Cass Elliott and Natalie Wood lived on Woodrow Wilson Drive. I believe that was a clandestine service house, 7708 Woodrow Wilson Drive, 10050 Cielo Drive. I also believe that the Playboy Mansion where Hugh Hefner had a operation, I believe that's a clandestine service residence. I'm starting to believe the Art Linklater home at 1100 Bel Air Drive was sort of a clandestine service setup, fake home that under the cover that that's where Art Linklater lived, because it's a perfect surveillance home, and it's right across from the enchanted hillside known as Angelo Park, which is owned by Paul Allen's land trust. 120 acres of land right above the Sharon Tate murder site is a gated private facility, which is exactly, a kilometer east of Art Linklater's home on Bel Air Road, and it's exactly a kilometer west of the Jean Harlow home at 9820 Easton Drive, where Jay Sebring, Tom Coomer, resided when he was murdered at Cielo Drive, which is approximately a mile away. And as the crow flies, it's half a mile away. These places that I just mentioned, Art Linklater's home, the Enchanted Hillside, aka Paul Allen's land trust, Cielo Drive, where the murders happened, Sunbrook Drive, where the staging houses are located, Easton Drive, where Jean Harlow died at age 26. Those 5 places, they're all within 600 to 800 meters of each other as the crow flies. But because there's no direct road, you have to go down, then reverse direction and come back. It adds double the mileage that you would think if you were a bird or an eagle, you could just fly over in a couple of seconds. Anyway, that applies to where this UCLA expansion in San Pedro is, because of course this was home to the prison, Terminal Island, where UCLA, Louis Jolyon West, medical CIA, MK Ultra doctor used to visit, and he was department head of psychology at UCLA. And this is, of course, in close proximity to where, Marina Del Rey is, and where the Straight Satans ran a CIA drug distribution operation in Venice, at Venice Beach, at One Clubhouse Avenue, which is one parking lot away from where Arnold Schwarzenegger took steroids and beefed up to win a beauty pageant for steroided men at Muscle Beach. And then it's in close proximity where Santa Monica is located, and the Church of Synanon, where people made a 2-year commitment and took a vow of poverty, essentially, and were manipulated through a CIA-controlled fake church. And that is about 1.5 miles from the New Roads School, where Dakota Johnson attended high school, which is 1 mile from where Dorothy Stratton was killed in a ritualistic murder. And this is where war propaganda films were done over 100 years, at Culver City. And of course, this is the site of the Ann Heche fiery car crash, where no one actually died, and there is no body, and there is no explanation of why the hedgerow wasn't damaged. So that's what we're dealing with here. So I just thought I'd give you today's news. $80 million, 35.5 acre real estate transaction coming down in what's called the South Bay portion of Los Angeles County. It's right on the area where Orange County begins, and Los Alamitos Joint Forces, Marines, United States Navy Air Base, and United States Army base is located in close proximity to Long Beach and the Port of Long Beach, which obviously is a secure, national security interested place, and it's Spooksville, USA. And they have a horse race track there that Leno LaBianca used to frequent. And I believe Suran was a jockey there as well. I know that they spent more time in up by Pasadena way. And there's a racetrack closer to Altadena and Pasadena that Suran spent time. He also spent time out in Corona, in I believe Riverside County or Ontario. And that's where he did most of his horse racing, was out in Corona area, inland. However, his parents lived in Altadena, which is closer proximity to where Leno LaBianca lived. So I believe Leno LaBianca would have known Suran, although it doesn't really factor into the story. I believe that Leno LaBianca would have known Colonel Paul Tate also, just like we know that Abigail Folger's mother worked closely with Sharon Tate's father, Colonel Paul Tate, in San Francisco at Haight-Ashbury. So what I want you to always remember in my videos is that a lot of the characters that you've heard their names, they actually know each other. Evel Younger, Aaron Stovich, Paul Caruso, Colonel Paul Tate, Leno LaBianca. They know each other. They know each other through their Army connections and through their CIA projects that they work on, sometimes jointly. And they know each other because they're all operating out of Los Angeles County, and that many of their activities, of course, are fully exempt from criminal prosecution. So you have to have the district attorney and the deputy district attorney, in on the scam, so that people don't get arrested. And they may be arrested, but they're not to be charged. Don't forget, Charlie Manson was arrested 6 times. He was released 5 times when he was on parole for, car theft. So that's a catch and release policy, right? So, why can you imagine being on federal parole and being arrested 5 times and being released 5 times with no bail? There's no further requirements for you to come to court. They just drop all the charges. And was the same with Susan Atkins. She was arrested and released multiple times as well. I think 2 times, as opposed to Charlie's 6 times. The last time Charlie was arrested, it was for graffiti of the Mojave sign out there in Inyo County. So if you believe that. He was not arrested for murder or conspiracy to commit murder. He was arrested for graffiti, and he sat in a jail cell in Inyo County, in the Inyo County Jail in Independence, close to Kern County, but just across the border. And he sat there for over 2 months before somebody came up with the idea that should be charged with the Sharon Tate murder and the Leno LaBianca murders. So needless to say, they did apparently drop the graffiti charges. All right, thanks for listening, and I hope that you will enjoy some new experiences that I have planned. I'm going to do some road trips. I'm going to have some background. I'm getting a spaceship. I've got some other things planned for the future. Have a great day, and please hit the like or subscribe. Take care.